You canceled the dinner you were looking forward to. Skipped the hobby you love. Stayed home instead of going out. Not because you don't want to. Because you're too exhausted. What if the life you actually want is being sacrificed to the life you think you have to live? What if you're burning out maintaining a version of yourself that isn't even real? You're not too tired to do what you want. You're too tired from doing what you don't. And the difference is destroying you. Welcome to Unfiltered Adulthood, where we explore the quiet psychological shifts that reshape you in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. If this resonates, subscribe and hit like. There's someone who noticed a pattern. Every time they had free time, they were too exhausted to use it. Friday nights meant collapsing on the couch, not going to that concert. Weekends meant sleeping in and scrolling, not hiking or seeing friends. Vacation days meant recovering, not actually doing the things they'd been saving them for. And they kept telling themselves it was temporary. That once work calmed down, once the busy season ended, once things settled, they'd have energy again. But work never calmed down. The busy season never ended. Things never settled. And they were still too tired to do anything they actually wanted to do. They started keeping track. Not consciously. But the cancellations added up. The hobby they loved but hadn't touched in months. The friend who kept texting to hang out but kept getting raincheck after raincheck. The book they were excited to read sitting untouched on the nightstand. The class they signed up for but never attended. All sacrificed to exhaustion. And the exhaustion felt justified. They were busy. Really busy. Work was demanding. Life was full. Obligations were endless. Of course they were tired. Anyone would be. But something felt off about the math. Because when they looked at what they were actually doing, it didn't add up to the level of depletion they felt. They weren't running marathons. They weren't working 3 jobs. They weren't doing anything objectively extreme. But they were bone tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. The kind of tired that makes even enjoyable things feel like too much effort. The kind of tired that turns desire into obligation. They started to notice something else. That certain activities drained them completely while others didn't. That an hour of work email left them more exhausted than 3 hours of something they actually cared about. That obligation depleted them in a way that genuine interest didn't. That the tiredness wasn't about activity level. It was about alignment. They were spending all their energy on things that gave nothing back. Work that didn't fulfill them. Relationships they were maintaining out of guilt, not connection. Commitments they'd made out of should, not want. Activities that looked good but felt hollow. And all of it was draining them dry while the things that actually filled them up got pushed to, when I have energy. But the energy never came. Because they were using it all on the wrong things. They were pouring from an empty cup into bottomless obligations. And then wondering why there was nothing left for joy. Why rest didn't restore them. Why even things they used to love felt like too much. The breaking point came on a Saturday. They'd been looking forward to it all week. Had plans. Things they actually wanted to do. And when the day arrived, they couldn't do any of it. They were too tired. Not sick. Not injured. Just depleted. Too depleted to enjoy their own life. And they realized this was becoming the pattern. That they were chronically too tired for the life they actually wanted. They started asking a different question. Not, why am I so tired, but, what am I tired from? And when they looked honestly at their days, the answer was uncomfortable. They were tired from performing. From maintaining a version of themselves that looked productive and capable and together. From saying yes to things they didn't want to do. From avoiding conflict. From meeting expectations that weren't even theirs. They were tired from living a life that required constant effort to maintain because it wasn't actually aligned with who they were or what they valued. They were tired from the gap between how they spent their time and what actually mattered to them. They were tired from caring about things that didn't deserve their energy while neglecting things that did. And the realization hit hard. That they weren't going to suddenly have energy for their actual life. Not while they were spending it all on the performance of life. That waiting for things to calm down was waiting for something that would never come. That they had to make space for what mattered, not wait for space to appear. Because the life they actually wanted wasn't going to happen after they got through the busy period. It had to happen during. Or it wouldn't happen at all. They started making changes. Small ones. Not quitting everything or burning it all down. But redirecting energy. They stopped saying yes to things that drained them just to avoid disappointing people. Started saying no to commitments that served no purpose except maintaining an image. Began prioritizing things that actually filled them up instead of treating those things as rewards for surviving everything else. And it was hard. Because other people noticed. The friend who was used to them always being available for venting sessions but never actually reciprocating got confused when they started setting boundaries. The colleague who relied on them to pick up slack got frustrated when they stopped. The family member who expected constant accommodation didn't understand the change. But something else happened too. They started having energy again. Not because they were doing less. But because they were doing things that mattered. That aligned with their values. That gave back instead of just taking. And those things didn't deplete them the same way obligations did. They actually energized them. They rediscovered the hobby they'd abandoned. And it didn't feel like adding one more thing to an impossible list. It felt like reclaiming a part of themselves. They started seeing friends again. Not out of obligation. But because they actually wanted to. And the difference was stark. Time with people they genuinely connected with didn't drain them. It fed them. They still got tired. But it was a different kind of tired. The kind that comes from actually living instead of just surviving. The kind that rest actually fixes. The kind that doesn't make them resent their own life. And they realized the exhaustion had been a message. Not about needing more rest. But about needing a different life. One that didn't require all their energy just to maintain. They learned to recognize the difference between tired and depleted. Tired is physical. It responds to rest. Depleted is existential. It responds to alignment. And they'd been depleted for years while treating it like they just needed better sleep. The life they actually wanted stopped being something for later. Stopped being the reward for getting through all the obligations. It became the priority. Not because they had extra energy. But because spending energy on what mattered created more energy than spending it on what didn't. They stopped canceling the things they looked forward to. Stopped skipping the things that brought them joy. Stopped sacrificing their actual life to the performance of life. And the exhaustion that had felt permanent started to lift. Not because they were doing less. But because they were doing what was worth their energy. You canceled the dinner you were looking forward to. Skipped the hobby you love. Stayed home instead of going out. Not because you don't want to. Because you're too exhausted. But the exhaustion isn't from doing too much. It's from doing the wrong things. From spending all your energy on obligations and none on desires. From maintaining a life that drains you instead of fills you. The life you actually want is being sacrificed to the life you think you have to live. But you don't have to live that way. You're not too tired to do what you want. You're too tired from doing what you don't. And recognizing that difference is the first step to getting your energy back. Because energy isn't just about rest. It's about alignment. And when your life aligns with your values, when you spend your time on things that actually matter to you, the exhaustion changes. It becomes the good kind. The kind that comes from living instead of just surviving. The kind that rest actually fixes. You don't need more hours in the day. You need different priorities. You don't need more energy. You need to stop spending it on things that don't give anything back. And the moment you start redirecting your energy toward what actually fills you up, the chronic depletion starts to lift. Not because life got easier, but because it got real.